actually wanted it to be kind of smaller. So I was like, okay, it was good that she didn't go to A3 where there's like 30 people. And now it's y'all, so this is perfect. And y'all know this, but just, you know, pay attention, take notes, think of questions that you could ask, but hold all of your questions to the end. Maybe even jot down a little note if you think of something. And I'm sure if she has something that she wants to, you know, specifically tell you, she will. All right, anything else before we begin? Awesome, okay. Ah.
How do I switch to? I love PowerPoint.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Hold on just a second. Hold up. Now I'll give you the clip.
This.
Yes, and just the arrows.
Okay. Hi guys. As Ms. Fruge said, my name is Mallory Grounds, and I'm the Development Director at Harvest Texarkana. So basically what that means is anytime we have some people coming in that want to tour or to volunteer or presentations like this, I get to go out and tell everybody all about the good work we're doing at the food bank. How many of you guys have been to the food bank before? Any of you? Okay, for volunteer work and things like that? Okay. So you guys might know some of the things that I'm going to be talking about today already. Harvest Texarkana started in 1989 as a food rescue organization. What that means is that we go out into the community in our vans and we pick up prepared excess food from over 40 local restaurants and vendors. These are places like Olive Garden, Starbucks, Pizza Hut, Domino's, several businesses throughout town. When they have this prepared excess food, what they do is they put it in the freezer for us, and depending on their needs, we go by there 1 to 3 times a week and pick up this food and take it directly to the shelters and soup kitchens downtown. That includes the Friendship Center, St. Edward's Outreach, Randy Sam's, Domestic Violence, and Salvation Army. These organizations depend greatly on this service. This is a program that we get zero funding for. We strictly rely on fundraising and donations to run this program. Without this program, St. Edward's Outreach, for instance, they don't know what they would do. They serve over 250 people every single day at their soup kitchen, and these are the foods that we supply to them free of cost. In 2005, when this area was influxed with evacuees from Hurricane Katrina, we began food banking. So we joined the Feeding America network of food banks, and we currently receive, warehouse, and distribute over 2.2 million pounds of food each year. That's a lot of food. It sounds like a lot of food, right? Well, really, when you think about it, it's nothing compared to the amount of people that are going hungry in this area. We have about 100 partner agencies. We don't serve individuals directly at the food bank. There are only 8 of us. 2 of us are part-time. One of them is a food rescue driver who is never in the office, so we are a very slim staff, and we have to be careful with our resources and really work together as a team to try to accomplish things. So we don't serve individuals directly at the warehouse. We do this through the help of our partner agencies, which are the soup kitchens, food shelters, and food pantries throughout our service area. As you can see, we serve 10 counties in this region, the 9 most southwestern counties in Arkansas, as well as Bowie County, Texas. When you look at this map, over here, all of these counties, basically every county in our service area, aside from Bowie and Miller, I won't leave anymore, aside from Bowie and Miller, are more rural counties. So in these counties, there aren't as many options for hunger relief, or the places that there are options, the food pantries they do have in those counties, the people who are in need of the services, they can't afford the gas it takes to get there. So what we did is we developed a mobile pantry program to serve those people directly. Through this program, we go out into these counties, places like Nashville, Murfreesboro, Stamps, Waldo, several other places, and we take 240 boxes of shelf-stable food. We have volunteers that come in. Like I said, we're a slim staff, so we greatly depend on the community as a whole, civic organizations and religious groups to come in and help us. When this program started, we were only visiting 2 of those counties quarterly. So we were only doing 8 mobile pantries a year. And there was no way we were serving the needs of the people in those counties that are struggling with hunger. So we decided to help fight the hunger in those areas. We were going to triple our mobile pantry program. We're going to visit every single county aside from Bowie and Miller and take this food out there to help those individuals, or those families really. So Right now, we went from doing 8 mobile pantries a year. Last year we increased it to 14. This year we're doing roughly 30 this year. So some months we have to have over 700 boxes packed to be able to do this, and there's no way that we could do that on our own. So I'm constantly calling clubs at schools or other various civic organizations that have volunteered with us and saying, hey, can you guys come in here and help us pack these boxes? There are days that I've worked 12 hours, stayed late, worked till 8 or 9 at night to pack those boxes so that those people don't go hungry if we didn't get it done or we didn't show up. We get the word out by sending a press release, and so it's on the radio, it's in the newspaper, people are sending out flyers to help us get the word out that we're going to be there. When we arrive in these communities, they are waiting for us in crowds, huge crowds just waiting for us. We set it up, probably 2 tables, and one table is serving the people whose last names start with A through M or A through L, and the other table is serving L through Z. So they line up, they come up to the table. It is based off of income, so they do have to tell us a little bit about their income and their family. So they have to tell us how many people are in their household, how old those people are, and what their total monthly household income is. If they do not reach those guidelines, we do take extra boxes, what we call pantry boxes, which is just various things from our warehouse so that we don't send anyone away without some food. This, going on a mobile pantry, it was a very eye-opening experience for me. I've been at the food bank for just over a year, and we went to one community in particular, and in all of these communities, the mayor's office and the city's office, the police department, they are very, very supportive of this program because they know that their community has a vital need for this. One community in particular, the mayor, he always is there to help us and help us get the word out, and he's always on site every time. He has people from the city office there helping us. They're answering questions for people, telling them what they need to do, taking pictures to send to their newspaper to help get the word out about Harvest Texarkana. They have police officers there with crowd control because there are times that these people are crowding our tables and pushing us backwards, almost knocking our tables over because they are so hungry and they're so scared they're not going to get any food to take home to their kids. So the police officers are there, and that really cuts back on some of that where they're just on top of us. So as I'm going through this mobile pantry, every time I look up, there's someone different there. It's not the people you think it is. It's not the people who don't want to work. It's not the people who are homeless. It is people that look just like you and I that are coming up to this line. It's the single mom who's working 2 jobs and is paying all the bills and doesn't have enough left over for food. She's got to do whatever she can to feed her kids. It's your grandmother who is widowed, and now that healthcare is so outrageously expensive, she has to choose between her expensive medicines that are going to keep her alive or food that's also going to keep her alive. Of course, she has to choose the medicine, so she's in my line to receive food. As I look up, I see the city officials, the people who are there helping promote this and helping these people get this food. They are in my line too, because the incomes in these towns are so small. The town in particular that I'm speaking of, their median household income is $19,000 a year. Now, do any of you guys have jobs? Okay, so you know what it's like. You know what it's like if you've got a couple of bills you have to pay and you've got X amount of dollars. You have to really budget those things. Well, in this community where the median household income is so small, these poor people, I mean, she looks just like me, working all day every day, and then she's in my line to receive food. Next thing I know, one of those police officers is in my line to receive food. It was very heartwarming to know that they were there to help us, but then it's also saddening to know, hey, they need these services too. It's important that everyone realizes that the idea of who is hungry is not what it has historically been. That we have an epidemic of the working poor in this country, and a lot of people are struggling to feed their families. So, how many of you heard about the backpack program? Okay, this is the program that we are the most well known for. Through the backpack program, we provide child-friendly, nutritious meals to kids every weekend throughout the school year. We have a group of volunteers from Crossview Baptist Church. It's their seniors group who is wonderful. They've been coming every Tuesday for about 7 years throughout the school year to pack these backpacks. And we say backpacks, but really what it is, we take Walmart sacks and we have it set up like an assembly line. We get a Walmart sack and we go down the line and we're adding items to the bag, and then we separate them out by schools. So some of the schools we deliver them to, other schools they come and pick it up and they take it back to the schools, and then they distribute them into the children's backpacks when everyone's out of the class so that no one knows that they're receiving these services. Right now, Harvest is doing the backpack program for 22 different schools throughout our 10-county service area. Most of these schools are right here in Texarkana and Miller and Bowie counties. We have 700 students in the backpack program currently. Okay. These are statistics for this region. 1 in 6 people that you see anywhere you go, 1 out of 6 people does not get enough food to eat at home. And of those people, 1 in 4 are children. It's a lot of hungry kids. So according to these statistics, in this classroom, there could be at least 2 people who don't get enough food to eat at home. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize too. When you're sitting in a class full of 30 people, think about it. Look around and think about it. There's probably statistically there could be 5 people in that class that are struggling with hunger. Now, in that particular class, it might only be 1 or 2, but you would never know. It's the person sitting behind you. It's the person sitting next to you. It's your best friend. They're ashamed. They don't want people to know. It's hard. It's hard for those kids to deal with those kind of things. So what do you guys think that it does to your body? Any ideas? What the dire effects of hunger on children? Okay, so this statistic, this is from Feeding America. 62% of American teachers report they regularly see kids who come to school hungry because they aren't getting enough to eat at home. That's a lot of kids throughout the country. I mean, a lot. I think the statistic is something close to around 20 million kids in the United States are struggling with food insecurity. At the end of the year last year, for the 2013-14 school year, our backpack program was only serving 490 students. Throughout the year, as kids move, they're dropped off, or as kids move in, or the teachers see a need, they realize that this kid needs some food, they're added to the program. We work closely with school officials and administrators to find out which kids qualify for this program. It's based off of the students who are already eligible for free or reduced price lunch, and then we depend on the teachers to talk to their counselors or whoever the backpack coordinators of their school to let them know, hey, I've got this kid who is coming in every Monday, just can't wait to get through the doors because they haven't eaten all weekend. And so they'll be added to the program. So these numbers fluctuate slightly throughout the year, but it's usually not very many. By November of this year, the backpack program starts the last week of September. So for the first few months of the school year, we are constantly getting kids added in from each school. By November of this school year, we had over 600 kids in this program already. That is way more than we served last year, and now we're at 700. So the numbers for this program are increasing drastically every day, and it's alarming. This is our most expensive program. It costs $125 to sponsor a child for the backpack program that provides them weekend meals throughout the entire school year. Overall, this program costs $70,000 to $80,000 a year. That's a lot of money. That's a whole lot of money. So we are constantly struggling to find ways to fund this program. We are reaching out to big businesses, Domtar, International Paper, Cooper Tire, Leadwell, places like that, who are willing to donate to this program. We do receive lots of foundation funding from places like United Way and various grants that we apply for throughout the year. But this year has been a struggle for us with all of these kids. It's hard. It's more time consuming to get all the bags packed, and just the astronomical amount that it costs us to do this program. They do receive on the weekends, like spring break next week is for Texas, so the kids in the Texas schools will receive double the amount of food that they normally receive to help them through the week. Unfortunately, we can't give them enough to feed them every single day, but it's something to help them throughout that week. All of the foods, as you can see, let me go back one. All of these foods, they are foods that they can open themselves. They can pop the top, they can open the cereal themselves in case they don't have proper supervision at home, things that they can feed themselves. Okay, these are the child food insecurity rates for Texas and Arkansas. Arkansas is 28.4% and Texas is 27.4%. This is the percentage of children under the age of 18 living in households where they experience limited availability of nutritionally adequate and safe foods. Most people don't realize the the long-term effects of hunger on children, what it's going to do to them for the rest of their lives. It affects you in ways that you would never think about. And if you're not struggling with hunger at home, you're not thinking about what those kids who are coming to school hungry every day, how that's affecting them emotionally, physically, cognitively. So this is some more stuff from Feeding America. Good nutrition is important in establishing a good foundation for a child's future, physical, mental health, academic achievement, and economic prosperity. Having access to proper nutrients gives our bodies what we need to succeed in life. Food insecurity is harmful to anyone, but it's especially devastating to children due to their vulnerability and potential for long-term consequences. You guys will have to forgive me on this next slide. Since we had the snow day yesterday, I didn't have my presentation at home, so I will probably be reading a lot from this paper. The first 3 years of our lives, we are experiencing rapid brain development. The first 3 years of our lives are vital to getting off on the right step throughout our lives as far as our education and how we're going to succeed. If we have too little energy, proteins, or nutrients during that time, it can lead to a deficit in cognitive, social, and emotional development. Malnutrition, iron deficiency, anemia, and other vitamin deficiencies in these early years can cause brain impairment. Hunger also reduces a child's motor skills. You know, how do you feel when you're hungry? You're tired, you're cranky, you're mad, you can't listen. I mean, it's not a good experience, right? Well, so these kids, they're not getting enough to eat. It affects their motor skills, their activity level is decreased, their motivation to explore their environment is almost nil, and that's important for children at that age, to be exploring and interacting with the people around them. Moving and exploring is important to our cognitive development, and active children are more stimulated and interactive with people, promoting their social and emotional development. Once they become school-age kids, they're already behind. Okay, they're starting off on the wrong foot already. They're behind from their peers. School-age children classified as hungry are more likely to need special education services. They're more likely to have repeated a grade in school and have to receive mental health services. These children are more likely to exhibit symptoms of conduct disorders like fighting, breaking the rules, stealing, having trouble with their teachers and their peers. There are various behavioral problems that they can suffer from due to the hunger. So sadly, the future for a lot of these kids as they get older, they experience things like homelessness, chronic health conditions, stressful life conditions. They're at home, they don't know where their next meal is coming from. Psychiatric and behavioral problems, and depression, anxiety, and poor self-esteem. When you think about these families and these kids at home, what kind of foods do you think they're eating? Anybody have any ideas? None? Okay. You think they're eating fresh fruits and vegetables? No. You think they're eating lean meats? No. They are eating what they can provide for their families. They are purchasing cheap foods that have a longer shelf life. These are junk foods that are packed with sugar and hydrogenated oils and many things that are not good for our bodies. We're all guilty of this, right? We all go to McDonald's. We all eat chips. Sometimes we like ramen noodles. Not just poor people eat ramen noodles. I like them sometimes too. But this is not what is going to give us the nutrients that we need in our bodies, the things that are going to wake us up mentally and physically and be prepared to come to school and learn. So these things, the foods that they are eating that they're able to provide for their kids, they lead to high rates of obesity. We all know that obesity is an epidemic in this country. They are more likely to develop diabetes and high blood pressure. And according to this, 84% of client households, this is a national statistic. We do not have this statistic on a regional level, but 84% of client households with children purchase the cheapest foods available to them. I had a man call me one day last year. We had sent in a press release to the paper, and now I can't remember what the press release was about specifically, but in this press release we talked about child hunger. So I just so happened to answer the phone the day that he called, and he says, I just saw I just read your article in the newspaper, and I do not believe that there are that many hungry kids in this area, and I think you should prove it to me. I go out to my grandkids' t-ball games and basketball games and baseball games and football games, and all I see are a bunch of fat kids running around. Okay, and I said, well, sir, I understand that, but that doesn't mean that they're not hungry. And that just feeds into the idea that those people that are on food stamps, or if they're not on food stamps, if they're just above the poverty level and they can't receive those benefits, they are still struggling to feed their kids. And so they are buying those things that are not good for us. And so I just tried to explain to him, like, the things that they can afford to buy are not the things that are going to make them slim, are not the things that are going to make them fit and ready to take on the world every day. It's a vicious cycle. So that leads me to this. Food insecure children do not perform as well in school. They are sick more often. They are less likely to finish high school or go to college, leaving them less likely to provide for their own families, which leads into the vicious cycle of poverty. So these people, it's hard for them to get out of this. When you start out with the odds against you as a child in those first 1 to 3 years or 0 to 3 years, when it's so important to get those vital nutrients, it just sets you up for failure throughout your life. And so here you are, 30 years old, 35, and now you're starting your own family, and you're behind because you dropped out in high school, so you didn't go to college. So you missed out on an enormous amount of salaries throughout your lifetime that you would have been able to have had you went to college and had the proper nutrition that would allowed you to succeed better in life. So they are just turning it, it's just over and over and over, this cycle. And so it's hard to break that cycle. So now let's talk about the cost of hunger, what it really costs us. Hunger prevents kids from reaching their full potential. It's an epidemic that's threatening America's future, which lies in our children. When hunger threatens the future of a child, it threatens the future of our nation. So, according to the Center for American Progress, hunger costs our nation at least $167.5 billion due to the combination of lost economic productivity per year. Those are the people who dropped out and missed out on the opportunity to have a good, decent salary for the rest of their lives. More expensive public education because of the rising costs of poor education outcomes. It costs more to teach people to try to counteract what's going on with the dropouts. And avoidable health care costs and the cost of charity to keep families fed. That's the cost of paying organizations like Harvest Texarkana to feed the people in need. This is the breakdown of what that $160 billion goes to. $130 billion is directly linked to illnesses caused by food insecurity. People are definitely much more likely to get sick, and that also includes as far their therapies for their development, their delayed development, cognitively, emotionally, those things. $19 billion is lost from lifetime financial earnings of kids who drop out and are forced to work low-paying jobs throughout their lifetime because they could not reach their full potential. $17 billion is what it takes to help charities like Harvest Texarkana throughout the country feed the needy. $17 billion is what it's costing charities to be able to feed these people in need in a country where nobody should be going hungry. I read a statistic somewhere, and it was an astronomical number of how many pounds of food are going to waste each year. And if people, instead of those restaurants and all these people, instead of throwing those things in the trash, if we gave them to the people in need, there wouldn't be anybody hungry. In Texarkana alone, over 5 million pounds of food goes to waste each year. We are only collecting about 100,000 pounds of that through our food rescue program. So we're not even touching, it's a very small percentage of that we are actually saving from the dumpster to help people. Okay, I'm sorry that this number is from 2010. In the food world, it is very hard to get accurate numbers, so it takes years, and we're always working at least 2 years behind off numbers. So this one is a little dated, but this is what it cost the individual. In 2010, it cost every citizen $542 due to the far-reaching consequences of hunger in our nation. If the number of hungry Americans remains constant, each individual's bill for hunger in our nation will amount to about $42,400 on a lifetime basis. That is a year's salary for a lot of people. An entire year, you work for an entire year to pay in to feed people that are struggling with hunger. It's very sad. It's heartbreaking to see this, and especially since I know that I live in a country where no one should go hungry. We have all the resources available that we need. Do you guys have any questions? These are some helpful resources I thought you guys might want to check out while you're working on your paper. There's several places out there that you can also look at.
Besides like the food rescue from restaurants, what else does Harvest Texarkana suggest needs to be done, like in our community, or something to help?
The kind of things that we're always encouraging people to do is be aware of your surroundings. Know what's going on around you. Get out to some of these organizations. Come out to Harvest and volunteer and see what we're doing to get the food out to those people. Go see firsthand at somewhere like Randy Sam's where you can volunteer, or St. Edward's Outreach, and see the kind of people that are coming through there. Get to know some of them. Get rid of some of those preconceived notations that we have about these people. We also encourage people, something else you can do to help in your community is to donate to some of these organizations, not just Harvest Texarkana, but the various shelters and food pantries and soup kitchens that are trying to fight hunger in this region. You could do a food drive, and not necessarily just for Harvest. You could take it down to Salvation Army or the Randy Sam's or the Friendship Center or St. Edward's. They are all looking for something from everywhere. I mean, they cannot do it on their own. Something else that I wanted to tell you about was, what do you think these kids are doing during the summer when they don't have the backpacks? They are starving. There are some summer feeding programs in this area. Lots of the schools are doing them now. But a lot of these kids, they don't have the means to get there. It's too far to walk. They don't have parents that care enough to take them, or they don't serve the parents as well who are also needing that. Like I said, the St. Edward's Outreach Center, they're serving 250 people every single day. They feed them lunch. They're there from 9:30 to 12:30, Monday through Friday. It's like you go to the house. It's downtown. It's an old house across the street from the Miller County Courthouse. If you drive by there around 11 o'clock any day, you will see a line of people out the door waiting in line to go through and get their food. And so once they get into the building, they're handed a Walmart sack, and they go down a line, and people are dropping stuff in their bag. And it's usually things that we have delivered to them the day before: pizza from Pizza Hut, hot dogs from various places, just some random things. And then they'll give them some drinks, something they can take with them. It's not a lot of food, but it's something that'll feed them right then. Well, they go from 250 people a day. In the summers, they're serving 450 people every day because of the rising need in the summers when kids are out of school. Our food pantries are slam-packed full throughout the summer because these families are struggling to figure out how they're going to feed their kids 3 times a day. When during the school year, they don't have to feed them. They don't have to worry about feeding them once a day. It's just the summers are hard, and we do not have the funding to do a summer feeding program. But that's something that we would love to be able to do one day. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am?
Do you also give backpacks to kids who might be homeless?
We don't give them to kids that might be homeless. We do reach homeless children through the shelters. Randy Sam's does have a women's part where they do accept women and children, and the domestic violence. We serve kids through domestic violence.
Any suggestions for breaking the vicious cycle? I mean, like in all your research, what do they say would be the best thing to do?
Make sure everybody gets enough to eat.
Yeah.
And we are a greedy country. We don't like to give our stuff away. We don't, even though we didn't have anyone show up in our restaurant to buy the food that day, we still don't want to give it away. We want to throw it in the trash instead of giving it to people who could use it. I don't know. I mean, there is no real answer. That's a question that we do a lot. Like, how could this be stopped? We have the means to do it. It's just the mindset of people across the country to be able to break this vicious cycle and give these people what they really need. And a lot of times it's the education of the parents. When these kids are small, they have been through the same cycle, and so developmentally these parents are behind. I mean, they don't have the same kind of education that you guys are receiving, or that I and Ms. Fruge have. So they're just doing the best they can and feeding them what they can. And a lot of them don't realize that, hey, my kid probably shouldn't eat ramen noodles every day, all day long, but that's what I can afford to feed them. That's what's keeping them from having their stomach growling all through school.
Okay, can you give us an example of, I know we saw the picture, but maybe like a list of things that normally go into the backpack?
Yes. Okay, so in the backpacks, we provide 2 breakfast items, 2 entree items, and 2 snack items. So I'll go back to this picture so you guys can look at some of those things. Okay, so we're providing lots of Pop Tops. Usually there are at least 2 of these Pop Top things. That one, we do Vienna sausages. What is that? Beans with the meat in them. Beanie Weenies. The canned lasagna. Sometimes it's mac and cheese. How many of you would eat those things? How many of you would eat Spam or Vienna sausages? Really? I wouldn't eat that. Okay, what about, I mean, and I feel guilty sometimes because I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to give this kid Vienna sausages, and I've never even tasted it because I wouldn't eat canned meat. I mean, it is good? Okay.
Well, it's better, but yeah.
Some of these things, okay, so then we give them, sometimes we're giving them cereal bars, like the Nutri-Grain bars, popcorn, which they love, cereal, lots of fruit snacks, and the shelf-stable milk. Did you guys know that you can get shelf-stable milk? Okay, I didn't know. I've heard of powdered milk, and I've seen milk in the dairy section, obviously, but I had no idea that I could purchase shelf-stable milk. And it's in a little thing like a little Yoo-hoo or something would be, or a fruit juice box, and we give them that so that they can have their cereal. Let me think of some other things we give.
Well, I guess they put pudding like on the aisles, and it's supposed to be refrigerated, so it's crazy what
Yes,
they come up with.
and we do mixed fruits and vegetables in those little individual containers. Applesauce, Rice Krispie treats sometimes, just various items. And we survey these kids and the teachers, or the the teachers and the kids 3 times a year. And so on these surveys, we're asking them throughout the year, we're just getting feedback from them about what they like or what they don't like, what the backpack program means to them. And even though I'm not the program director for these programs, I still like to read those surveys. Sometimes I sit at my desk and I read those surveys and I cry. These kids are saying things like, my tummy doesn't hurt anymore. I actually had something to eat this weekend. I mean, it's a very, very, very important program. It's very dear to our hearts.
What are some of the identifying factors that teachers look for when they're trying to recommend a student?
The first one is Monday mornings when they come in, are they asking for food? Are they can't wait to get here because they can't wait to get their breakfast? Are they having bad grades? Are they paying attention in class? Are they tired? Are they grumpy? Those are all identifiers of child hunger.
Once the teacher identifies a child, is there like a process past that? Do they have to get permission from home? Or?
Yes, they have to. The first thing the teacher would do is contact their school's backpack coordinator. That coordinator would then send a permission slip home to the parent, and the parent would have to sign saying the kid, yes, my child can receive these services. Then they fax it over to us at the food bank, and we add them to the list, and that week they get a backpack of food to take home with them.
Do you serve any students at the high school level?
No. We do not. In some of the smaller communities we do serve high school. Those are in Hempstead County and Hope and Blevins, smaller communities. The aim of the backpack program is to serve kids through middle school. I wish that we could do it all the way through, but in the smaller communities where there is funding for it, we do have a few high school kids in the program. Are these the kind of things you guys want to eat on the weekend? Yes, probably. I don't. I mean, I want a cooked meal.
So we're still facing the problem of not getting like fresh fruit and vegetables. I mean, we're doing a good job with this, but
this is what we call a food desert. Have you guys seen the commercial? It's everywhere.
Yeah.
I see it every day about your community being a food desert. This is considered a food desert because they can't afford to buy those things. We do at the food bank. We are a member of the Arkansas Hunger Relief Alliance, and that is a network of food banks throughout Arkansas. And we just we benefit from being a member because we get certain things from them throughout the year. They work closely with farmers throughout the state of Arkansas who are selling their products or whatever they're growing to the local grocery stores. So whenever people like us go to the grocery store and we are buying apples or whatever it is, bananas, anything, we want the prettiest one they have. We want it to be pretty. We don't want any bruises. We don't want any discoloration. We want it to be perfect. So whenever they are harvesting, they pick out these perfect things and they leave the ones that are misshapen or discolored, the things that are not going to sell in the grocery store. And so Aura